Chicago. Look, they just lost to Green Bay, and they're in a tough NFC North race right now. And somebody, I was looking at this earlier, somebody is going to have 11, 10 wins in that division is not going to make the playoffs. We don't know if it's going to be Detroit. We don't know if it's going to be Green Bay. We don't know if it's going to be Chicago. MJ, I want to start with you. Man, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think Chicago drops out the playoffs?
I honestly I don't think so. I don't think so. Looking at the rest of the games they have the Browns. On paper, that's a win unless Shador Sanders shows up. Next game they got the Packers. The Bears are just one fourth down away from winning that game. So it's not like they got blown out by the Packers or got exposed. It was a really good game. It was just at the end of the game, it came down to a fourth down, and Caleb Williams just threw interceptions. That was it. In my personal opinion, I think they're still in contention to win a division. Then they got the 49ers on Sunday night. That's going to be a defensive game, so I don't see that going past. I don't see that going past 30 for neither team, to be honest. So I think that's a winnable game because, in my personal opinion, I know this is a hot take as well, but the 49ers are fraudulent. Look at their schedule. If you see, look at their schedule. I'm serious.
You know that's gonna make
Preaching to the
Adam.
choir.
That's gonna make
I
Adam.
mean,
Like
didn't Brock Purdy
Preaching to
throw
the
like 3
choir.
interceptions to the Panthers?
Exactly. Look at their schedule, and they're 8-4. I granted they did what they did with Mac Jones, but realistically speaking, I don't see them as a threat in the playoffs. I think of them as one and done. And then that last game for the Bears is a divisional game. So my personal opinion, I think this week the Bears game, basically all four of these games are must win games. But the one, if you want to keep the Lions out of the playoffs, you need to beat Cleveland, for the 49ers, and the Lions if you want to keep the Lions out of the playoff picture. Because right now, the Lions on the outside looking and scratching and clawing. And you saw that against us last Thursday night, unfortunately, when they beat us. But that's a topic for another day. I hate Matt Eberflus. I hate Matt Eberflus. I hate Matt Eberflus.
Look, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this really quick, low key, before I pass it off to Tyrant. Look, I'm kind of rooting for Chicago. If all goes wrong with the Cowboys, and we're going to talk about the Cowboys in the playoff picture in a bit, but low key, as much as I want to, I want to see Caleb Williams succeed. Man, I need Detroit. I need Chicago to lose these games. Look, MJ, you made a great point when you said Chicago's schedule, but look, I'm looking at this. Obviously, on paper, they're supposed to be Cleveland, unless, like you said before, Shador goes AWOL and goes and is on time. Look,
Perfect timing.
but I'm looking at the schedule, and you play the Packers, the 49ers, and the Lions. And yes, the 49ers, a lot of people say they are fraudulent. I don't think they're the best team in the NFC West, like some people would debate. But I do say this: at times they can be a pretty good team. Look, and you never know. You never know with Brock Purdy. You could catch him slipping one day, and he can throw for 4 touchdowns on you just with that system that they run with Kyle Shanahan. So I'm gonna say this: the Bears, I can see it's the Packers, the 49ers, and the Lions. That's a tough road to close the schedule. I mean, close the season. I can just see Chicago going 0 for 3. And maybe it doesn't happen. But it's very possible with the remaining schedule. And even with Detroit, for on Detroit side of the ball, this is why I need Detroit to kind of look for Detroit. I need them to lose to the Rams.
Chill.
I need them to lose to the Rams. I need them to lose to the Steelers. The Steelers, honestly, to me, are the most mediocre team. At times they look mid, and at times they look like probably a top team in the NFL. I don't have any trust in the Vikings, but then you got to beat Chicago on week 18. So we need a lot to happen, and we're going to talk about it in a bit. But Tyron, what's your thoughts? Do you think Chicago makes the playoffs?
I think they do sneak it in. Honestly, I think for their last 4 games, they go 2-2. I do think they lose to the Lions in the last game of the season, but I think they get some help when the Vikings play the Lions a little earlier in the season. The Lions kind of scare me, bro, because when they play my Lions, I judge a lot of teams based off how they play my Giants. If you have a close game with my Giants, bro, it's a little skeptical to me. It kind of works with the Eagles, the Chargers, and it's working with the Lions right now. So I worry about them heading into the playoffs is all I say. Packers are good for the division. That's a tough game for them, but I think they can win the other 3, honestly.
Adam, what's your thoughts on this?
I was just trying to look at the Packers' remaining schedule. I mean, it's probably going to come down to that game in Chicago, Packers against the Bears. The Bears do have like I think a little bit tougher schedule. Yeah, especially if you get like the Ravens winning this week and then they're still alive. That could be a tough game in Week 17 versus the Packers. Let's see, Week 18. Do, 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 do. Then you got the Vikings, so they're probably going to win that last game against the Vikings. But right now, the Packers are like slightly in the driver's seat, but tiebreaker can still go either way. It's really going to be a dogfight. I like to say that they'll limp into the playoffs in that 7 seed because that's what I had going into the preseason too. But just something tells me the Packers are going to somehow like eke this out. I really do think it's going to come down to that head-to-head win or head-to-head matchup in Week 17. Sorry, Johnny's being a little invasive right now, but yeah, it's going to be an absolute dogfight. I think the Bears beat the Browns this week. The I think they should win at home. The Packers won at home against the Bears, or sorry, the Bears beat the Packers at home, and the Bears should win again, but it's going to be tough. And then the 49ers, they're still going to probably have something to play for seeding. They're probably not going to win the division, but at the same time, they're going to be fighting for all those wild card spots. And then I think they probably beat the Lions, but I'm going to say the Bears just barely missed the playoffs, even though I want them to make the playoffs. Definitely rooting for them.
Ben, what are your thoughts on this?
So I might be in a similar boat than Adam on this, and it might be because we spent so much time with those cheeseheads. But I'm gonna go back to what MJ was talking about with the Bears as well. This is not to discredit the Bears' last game against the Packers at all. MJ mentioned before it came down to fourth down play, and they barely lost that game. But when I look at these two rosters between like the Packers and the Bears, like I'm of course comparing their offenses. For me, I think like the Packers offense runs a little bit deeper even with Tucker Kraft and Matthew Golden out. Christian Watson had 2 tutties last game. Josh Jacobs looks to seem like he's getting back on track slowly, and I just think for me like the defense also for the Green Bay Packers still they've been historical these past couple weeks, and obviously they did drop the game to Cleveland earlier in the year, and Carolina happened again. But I don't know. I just think the Packers will also sneak out with this as well. And while I do expect the Bears to make the playoffs still, I think it's the Packers division to run with in the North still.
Look, this is how I honestly see it playing out because if just the way I look at when I look at the schedules, honestly, I'm not gonna say like I dive too much into it, but I kind of look at your last 5 games. Chicago was coming in. They came into Green Bay. They came hot. They beat the Eagles, and a lot of people have their opinions about the Eagles, but the Eagles are still a pretty good football team at the end of the day, regardless of your opinions. But you lose to the Packers on a close one.
Saw MJ rolling his eyes.
A lot of people. You're supposed to beat the Browns, but look, you come back home, and this is for the Bears. I mean, honestly, I think this game against Green Bay is going to determine a lot. Like Adam said before, it's going to come down. Honestly, if just like put it like it is, if Chicago doesn't win this game against Green Bay, their chances for a first place in that division are just gone since they lost to Green Bay last week.
Yeah. And sorry, I was gonna say real quick. Also, like we also mentioned during the offseason, like honestly, we were like tarnishing the Bears, run game. How it looked on paper, but Calvin Ungai and DeAndre Swift, they've done a great job so far. And they're what Ben Johnson and all of them have been doing so far for their first year too. It's nothing to discredit them at all, but I just think also with Detroit, that just plays a huge factor as well. And for me, for Detroit, it's kind of like a 50-50. Like for me, this game against Matthew Stafford this week, like Matthew Stafford played for the Rams for over a decade. Like I always remember that game of Matthew Stafford blowing out his shoulder, finishing the game. And now he's going, believe they're in LA, right? Or are they in Detroit?
I think they're in Detroit.
Yeah. So if he's going back to
they're in LA. They're
okay,
in
yeah.
LA. Look, I'm gonna say
that's gonna be the game for me for Lions too.
I never thought I'd be watching the NFC North as much boiling down to it, but look, unfortunately, Detroit, Chicago, and Green Bay, you could say they had pretty tough schedules to close out the season.